Today we're looking at the Devilbiss Vacuaide suction machine. This suction machine is used for both tracheostomy suction and oral suctioning. And it is a battery operated unit. The charging of the battery is done with this inverter. So you notice it's an inverter here, so we plug into an AC source, and then the connector is plugged in here. So it is a 12 volt system, meaning there is a car adapter for it also. So if you needed to operate it in your vehicle, you could just plug it into a DC automotive adapter. The on-off switch is right here in the front, turning it on and off. It has 3 indicators on a panel here, and it indicates if it's plugged in. The light will come on to show you that you actually have power going into the unit to charge the battery. This actually indicates that the battery is actively charging, and this indicates that it's operating on the battery source. So you've got the 3 different lights right here. Also, while I've got it tipped up, you'll notice that there is a vacuum pressure gauge here. So this is very important. This measures vacuum pressure, so it's negative numbers. And for trach suctioning, what we're shooting for is a suction pressure of about 150 millimeters of mercury. So the reason we limit that to 150, even though the machine will go up to about 600 millimeters of mercury, is that we want to be careful with suctioning into the airway to make sure that we're not damaging tissue when we put that catheter in there. So to adjust that pressure, what we'll do is go ahead and turn the machine on. This is a good thing to check on the machine from time to time because they do get turned up inadvertently sometimes. But start the machine, and the first thing you notice is that there's no suction indicated without having the tubing connected. So know that, and then when we connect it, or when we occlude the end of the tube, you can see that the suction pressure is shown. Now if I turn the knob, I can make the suction pressure go up, and notice that I'm turning the entire gauge when I do this, and I'm going to go back down to about that 150 millimeter of mercury mark is where I want to have it set. I can't quite see the numbers there, but shoot for 150 millimeters of mercury is what you want. So that's your suction pressure, and I'm doing that by occluding the end of the tubing. Okay? The hookup of the machine, in order to get the tubing plugged in properly, is by having the short tube coming out of the suction, coming out of the machine itself where it draws the air in, having this short tube plugged in there, and then the short tube goes up to the center, and this is really important, it needs to go up to the center of the canister. So what's happening is the long tube, where we're suctioning from the patient, draws moisture into the outside of the canister so that the moisture goes down in the canister, and then it draws air up through this into the inside of the machine. So here, this is a filter. So this is a real important point. Because that's a filter, if that filter gets wet, it will occlude airflow. So if it's wet, say you wash the canister or accidentally splashed water into it or something, because it swells up, it stops airflow. So make sure that that filter stays dry at all times. I'm going to put this down, and I'm just going to turn the machine this way because I want to show you it can be easy to hook up the machine the wrong way. So always look and make sure that the suction tubing that's going to the patient is connected to the outside of the jar, and the inside, down in the center of the canister, goes to the machine itself. And I just want to show you real quickly that it's easy to do it the wrong way, which is why I suppose it happens sometimes, where you'll get it hooked up this way. So notice now, if the suction machine is hooked up this way, and I draw water into the tubing, it'll go directly into the filter. And in that filter, it'll swell and it'll stop airflow. It'll work for about 10 seconds, and then it'll stop because it just gets occluded with the moisture. So make sure that it's attached properly. So again, let's go back and put the tubing on where it should be. This is attached like so. Put our suction tubing here, and whatever you're using for suctioning here. So this is the proper attachment. If you ever have trouble with the machine, let's say you come on shift and you're going to use the machine, or somebody told you that it's not working, the easiest thing to figure out first is eliminate, is it a problem with the canister, or is there really a problem with the machine? So the easiest thing to do is to disconnect the canister from the machine itself, so that you just have the inlet left here. Now I can go ahead and turn the machine on, and I can see if I can get suction, and I can test it by putting my finger over here. So if I see now that I'm getting suction pressure from the machine, that tells me the machine is working properly, and then I can focus my attention on probably a filter problem or a canister problem. With the filter, that's real easy. See if that's wet, exchange it. You could have just an extra filter around, or you can change the entire canister to get a new filter. The other thing to look at is to make sure that you have a good seal with the top of the canister. So this has to be snapped on tight so that it's airtight, and this has to be out of the way. This is a cap that goes on the top here if needed, and sometimes they get stuck in the canister, which of course would make a leak, and you wouldn't be able to build up suction pressure. So make sure that's out. Make sure that this is snapped on tight, and then make sure there's no cracks or anything that would leak within the canister.